Yo, what's up, guys? Insane Game Freak here to bring you Durarara Season 2, Part 2, Episode 5 review. Is that what this is? Episode 5. I think Episode 5. Yeah, Episode 5. That was a waste of time. I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, I got to get the name right, so of course I'm going to derail everything for the sake of it. This episode actually further the plot, and it's kind of showing everyone's current position. Verona scenes are adorable now because it's like we know her goal, but like her scenes still come off. Her ulterior motive comes off as something completely different. So it's like these you see Shizuo and his brother, which was very interesting. I think that's like one of the first times we've seen them interact in like present time. So I found that interesting. But like you have Shizuo and her brother and Ruri interaction, which is really funny because if anyone remembers, Ruri got her shit wrecked. She was Hollywood and got her shit wrecked by Shizuo. So it's like she's trembling. You're like, oh, right. Because she got her shit wrecked. Oh my god, that's funny as hell to me. And then you got Verona peeking through the corners like, also, every time Verona Shizuo saying Shizuo scene is great now. Like it's like Shizuo, there's someone here to see you. He's like, I wonder who's trying to see us. And then Verona's like, is it because of that forklift we destroyed the other day? It's like, no. The CEO took care of that. I wonder who it is. Like I love their dynamic now. So I love seeing that. She might even come to value Thompson as living worthy. I'm not totally sure, but I don't know. I like that dynamic. We also get to see a continuation of the Aoba situation, although it seems somewhat confusing to an extent. Essentially, he wants to like pseudo recruit the black bike, and I'm like, bruh, let's just talk about Shinra for a second. That man was so fucking live in that shit because it's like they're talking. He's like, oh look, you like Isaiah. You seem very like Isaiah, which is true because he acts like Isaiah, which is really funny considering how much they don't like, how much he doesn't like Isaiah. But Shira picked up on that. It's like, yeah, man, you just act like Isaiah. And he walked up to him talking a whole bunch of shit. And then you see the scene with the little thing in his hand. You're like, yo, my boy, don't. That's ridiculous. This nigga went from 0 to 100 real fucking quick. Cause Shira was ready to stab that motherfucker. I was like, yo, chill out. Because obviously it's the whole. Because he's pretty much blackmailing them. You know, Celti living there is a bitch considering the police want to catch her. So it's like Aoba's using that as kind of leverage to get what he wants. And what he ends up getting is the email address. Well, I'm assuming that's the email address to the chat room, which makes sense because the chat room does have all the main characters in it. Although I think I had lost track of who's in there. I don't know. Also, I see a few other characters in there, which probably means that Aoba's invited some Blue Square members in there, which is effectively fucked that chat room dynamic up, but I can't tell because they don't show the people's faces and the voices didn't sound familiar enough for me to catch it. But as of right now, we know it's Mikado, uh, Masaomi, Henri, Celti, Isaiah, Isaiah's sisters, Saki, and probably Aoba. Am I missing anybody? I think that's it. I think those are the main ones, and then unfortunately, I think Aoba's invited a few other people. But the main chunk of this episode is that Rory's going through some shit again. Now, Rory, I don't know how worried Rory is, considering Rory's like. Well, we still don't even know what her abilities are. We just know that Rory is not like human. She obviously is some type of monster, demon. I'm not totally sure. She might be something like Celti, where she's based off of lore, off of like a myth and shit. The point is, she has a stalker named Anabayashi, who we see a few times in this episode, who has a weird obsession of like practicing kickboxing, has a shit ton of scars on him, and has a fucking picture wrapped around his ankle. I guess tapes, yeah, ankle tapes, and has an obsession of licking and eating her photos. I don't know what his goal is, but I know that it will be through him that everything comes to a head because we also, the other plot of this episode is Henri being worried about Mikado, and it makes sense because Mikado, she even makes an interesting reference. He's acting like Masaomi did, which is very red flaggish considering Masaomi was holding a whole bunch of shit back, and he had a whole bunch of dark side issues with it. Although I think Mikado's actually in a good mood because he's getting shit done. Although we're gonna have to eventually face the crux of the situation. He's using these members to get rid of these bullshit ass dollars who are fucking up his name, which is why the Anabayashi shit's gonna come to a head. Because Anabayashi, if I recall right, is probably using the dollars to get the information on Rory to go stalk her. And knowing how that's probably going to go, I have a theory of what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure that's going to run into each other. That's when Henri and Salty are going to get involved, and Salty's going to get involved by intention, because I know there's a certain line she's going to say later on based off a slight spoiler I heard, and that means I know she's going to have an interaction with Mikado at some time relatively soon in the future about some stuff. We'll see. And then obviously Masaomi still being kind of wishy-washy because I guess of what happened in the first season, and he doesn't want to like approach them, but he needs to approach them, so he's like, I don't know. I heard the name Mikage, and that name sounds familiar, and it might sound familiar because I've already heard that name in other anime before, but I swear to God, Mikage sounds familiar, like I've met this character before. But I think it's the character who's like the girl in like the red with the red hair, the spiky red hair, and the dojo gear. I think that's Mikage, but I don't think I've met her before. I don't know if she's relevant or not. Just it was a name that stuck out to me because it sounded really familiar. So Aoba has access to the chat room, which doesn't tell you too much considering they all act fake as fuck in that chat room. In the sense that they don't really, I guess you could say they don't reveal their true selves, but it's more so they just kind of keep up this bullshit ass facade of like as a normal chat room that just so happens to have all the main characters in it. And possibly more Blue Square members, which means that shit's gonna get diluted. Which maybe just be a representation of like, it might be a representation of how the dollars is getting flooded. Most of the other stuff is just more of exposition about the stalker, Shinra being beast as fuck, Celty still taking on missions and shit. The scene where she like grabs onto him as soon as he gets home, I thought was really cute. Verona Celty is the kawaii winners of this episode. Henri being concerned, which I honestly think Henri's concern is more of her coming into her feelings. I know most people do ship those two together, Mikado and Henri. And Henri always had a problem because she like, Henri doesn't really view herself as a person, if I recall right. Like, she views herself as lower than a person and how she's the monster and shit. And she's very withdrawn. But now that she's like catching feelings, worrying about Mikado, which really isn't that too different from like Masaomi. The difference is that like Masaomi there was something inherently wrong, whereas Mikado he seems fine. And like and she's contemplating this way more than she did Masaomi. Masaomi, she didn't want them to get involved into her shit. Here it's like she's actively worrying about Mikado to the point where she went to go seek advice. And it's not like she doesn't know he's in the dollars. And then hearing all that shit about the dollars, it would make sense. Now we have our Aoba warning watch going on because no one fucking trusts that dude. And because at the end you get to see Mikado in like the Aoba group, the Blue Square / dollar group, and it's like, huh. But I'm still trying to figure out what the hell Aoba gains from all this. I mean, what I think it is that essentially, in order to keep your group pure, that means you have to constantly keep on watch, which pretty much forces Mikado into a deadlock situation where he can never be able to truly walk away from the dollars. And I think maybe that's what Aoba's main goal is. But like, he obviously wants to cause some shit, but he also wants to get out. He also wants to get rid of Izaya, even though he doesn't know about him being stabbed, which I thought was interesting. I figured Aoba would have at least known that much, considering how much he hates the fucking guy. And then they mentioned some shit about his brother, so I'm like, well, is he's obviously using Mikado to start shit. For what end goal, I don't know. So I'm curious to see how this is gonna go. And we have a cat, a kitty. Durarara has a kitty mascot. Where the fuck is my Durarara kitty logo shit? And I want the Shizuo family picture with Ruri and Yuhei and Shizuo and Verona. And Akane is going to be floating around all over the fucking place. Make it happen. I command it. Fuck you, phone. I command it. Anyways, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game. Play to win. And I will catch you guys later. Peace out. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Yo. Ha 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 ha.